So today we're going to cover just a brief welcome and introduction, let you know who we are before we start talking to you. Go over what is a college fair. So maybe some of you are here and you've never heard of college fairs or you haven't had that experience and you just want to know like what even is a college fair. Or maybe some of you have some idea, but you've never been to one and want to know a little bit more. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be going over the top 5 reasons to go to a college fair. And this can be inclusive for those of you who maybe still aren't sure if you even want to do college. I know that's a fair amount of students are still on the fence about like, is that even my path? There are reasons to go, even if you think maybe that's not where you're going to wind up someday. And then lastly, we will talk about how to prepare for a college fair, both before and after, and then we'll have time for some questions and answers. So first, let me just introduce us really quick. I'm Miss Benedict. I'm the school counselor for students' last names B and C. And then we also have Mrs. Vogler who will be speaking today. And oh, Mrs. Vogler, I'm going to get this wrong. It's last names A and L through M. Oh, that was right. All right. So some of you probably have us as your counselor. You've also probably been getting some communication from Mrs. Vogler just about college and career readiness things you need to start thinking about and taking care of. So, just keep an eye out for those as well from her and your counselor. All right. So with that being said, I am going to start by talking about what you can do at a college fair, especially in particular a virtual college fair, since those are the ones that we're talking about here. In fact, I have the link to register for the virtual college fair that we've been talking about, and I'm going to put that in the chat right now, just so that y'all have that handy if you haven't registered yet. But at a college fair, what you can expect is that there's going to be virtual booths you can visit. So each college typically will have a booth or a virtual space where a representative can share information about their programs, campus life, admissions process, financial aid, and more. And it really is, I think a lot of students, when they think about the booths and what information is going to be shared, they think like, well, I already know like kind of what majors the school has or, like what college classes are like, that kind of thing. But the people who are there are trained to answer like all kinds of questions or to know who to get more information from. So some of the things, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later in prep, but some of the things you want to think about are going to be things like um, what do students do socially at your college? Like, do you have a robust social, club scene? Like, are there ways for you to get involved with other students, either through like ministry, if that's the kind of college you're going to, or, volunteer organizations or like Model UN or that kind of thing. Like they'll know that or they'll be able to let you know. Or, what is the environment the campus is in like? Like, is it rural? Is it in a city? Is there access to a lot of outside activities? Are a lot of the activities on campus? I mean, these are the kinds of questions that it might be hard for you to find answers to online, but the representative will either know or will be able to get you that information. So you can visit those virtual booths, ask them questions, find out info. You can also talk to those college representatives most of the time. So a lot of these, you can either interact directly with admissions officers, ask questions, get insights that aren't available on the college website, like what I was talking about. Some questions that come up a lot that fit really well under this are things like, should I take a 4th year of science or math? Or like, I'm interested in going into this college's engineering program. What classes should I take my senior year? We, as your counselors, can give you some good general advisement based on the website of the school and just knowing about, these career and tech fields and things like that. But the person who is going to know the best is going to be the representative for the college. They're going to say, oh, like the head of that department is this person. We'll find out from them what you need to take. Or, oh, yeah, if you're applying to engineering, you definitely need 4 years of math and science. They'll know that. So these are the kinds of questions you want to be talking to them about. You can also collect information. This is maybe a little bit more true for in-person college fairs, but it's not untrue for virtual ones. You can gather brochures, flyers, and other materials that provide detailed information about the colleges you're interested in. And I know this is the kind of thing you can also get online. And so some of you are like, well, why would I go to a college fair if I can just look it up? The information these schools bring is specific to students who are interested in applying. Again, these colleges go to a lot of trouble to make sure that they have the stuff that they need to help students pick them as their school. Obviously, they want to get new students, but B, feel informed about that decision so that they're getting the students who are going to be the best fit and stay with their program. So while you might be able to get information about a school online at any point in time, the information at these events is going to be geared towards you specifically, because they really want to appeal to potential incoming students. You can also attend webinars. Some fairs offer sessions on topics like how to apply to college, financial aid, or specific academic programs, or things like applying for the sports in the schools and things like that. The reason that our webinars are great and they're helpful and you should definitely be here. The additional benefit that some of these webinars will give you in addition to coming to ours is that a lot of times they're hosted by the people who are experts in the thing they're talking about. So for example, the college fairs that I've seen and been to, there's almost always a financial aid presentation, at least one, if not multiple financial aid presentations. And they're almost always hosted by someone who does financial aid for one of the colleges that is at the fair. So you're talking and getting information from someone who does that all day, every day as their job. So again, as your counselors, we have a lot of information and we can be helpful, but then there's this person who does this and only this all day, every day, and can speak very specifically to the college experience. Some other really good webinars I've seen that have been helpful have been admissions officers for schools. So there might be an admissions panel for a school that you're interested in going to. Those are great. Again, they're going to have specific information that we might not have as your counselors or just might not be readily available. I was at one for a couple of schools that were doing like a collaborative panel, and they shared things like, well, this is what we look for in an essay, or, when we say we don't want test scores, we mean we don't want test scores and we don't want students to send them in. So there's like very specific things that they'll tell you at those that can be helpful when you're applying. So if you see any of those, definitely worth your time to go. And then you can also compare colleges. So by visiting multiple booths, you can compare different colleges on important factors like location, size, academic programs, and campus culture. And the nice thing is, if you're visiting a lot of booths about colleges you're interested in, and maybe some that just seem kind of fun or, maybe weren't on your list to begin with, you can ask the same question at every booth. So let's say that something that's important to you is what kind of campus clubs do you have? You could just ask that question every single booth you go to. And so by the end, if you're taking notes and just, paying attention to what they're telling you, you'll have a pretty good list of like, okay, all these different colleges I'm interested in have all these different things. And then you can start checking off if they fall under what you're looking for or not. So ultimately, whatever college search stage you're at, there's something for you to explore here. So if you haven't looked at colleges at all and you have no idea what you're looking for yet in a college, and you don't even know if that's something you want to do, you can still go here and get basic information and hear some interesting webinars and just kind of like inform yourself on some of your options so that you ultimately make the most informed choice. And then on the other side of that spectrum, if you are someone who's like, I have 3 colleges and I am applying to these 3 colleges, this is my top one, my second one, and my third one, you can still go get more information from them. And it might just be more tailored. You might just ask questions like, I'm going to apply, what is something I should focus on in my essay? Or what is something that I need to know about living on campus or something like that? I mean, like, you can still get a ton out of these college fairs. It's just going to look different than if you're going and you're just going there to explore. But equally, all around, there's a lot to be gained from going to these fairs. So we've talked about this some already in talking about what you'll see at a college fair, but why should I go to the college fair? I get this question a lot from students, not just for college fairs, but in general. If you are someone who is like kind of on the fence about what you want to do, like maybe you don't want to go to college, maybe you want to do community college, maybe you're thinking about just going right to work, or maybe you just don't have any idea at all and you're just totally up in the air. So you're thinking, why should I go to a college fair if I'm not thinking about going to college right now? Like, why is that something I have to think about? I actually have 5 great reasons that you should go to the college fair, and then a 6th one that I didn't put on here as well that I'll end with. But the first one is to discover. So this might be for some of you who are kind of at the stage where you're like, I'm sort of thinking about college, but I don't really like know what I'm interested in or what schools to go to. But college fairs introduce you to schools you might not have considered or known about. I mean, there's a lot of colleges out there. So I think sometimes when students are thinking about colleges, they tend to either think about colleges that are very close to them or colleges that are like Yale or Princeton or, some of the big ones that you can name or ones that have really good sports teams. That tends to be kind of the areas that we're looking in. But there's a ton of colleges out there, and there's some that you may not have considered or even known about, honestly, just with how many there are. So this can expand your options beyond your initial list and help you find a college that better suits your academics and personal goals if you just devote some time to going to the college fair and looking around and kind of talking with schools and seeing what they're about. You never know if you're going to find something that you're like, oh, this school actually seems like a perfect fit for me, and I've never even heard of them. So that can be a really good benefit of going to a college fair. You'll also gain insight. We talked about this a lot already, but speaking directly to college representatives gives you information that's more personalized and detailed than what you can find online. You can ask about specific programs. So again, if there's like a club that you're really interested in, or if you want to know about like the online, not online, the on-campus, like what's the word I'm looking for? Ministries, things like that. So like, do you have a Christian ministry at your campus that students can participate in? It's much easier to ask someone in person than it is to kind of like research that and find out on your own. You can ask about campus culture. So, some schools are very involved in like a social scene. Some schools are really like academic focused. Some schools are very sports focused. And schools all have their own different cultures. So you can ask a little bit more about that. Um, and student life in general, like do most of your students live on campus? Do most of them live off campus? Just kind of get a feel for that. And then get a better understanding of what each college has to offer and what they're known for. So you can just ask really specific questions that you might not be able to find answers to. So this is great for those of you who are maybe at like a point in your college research where you're like, well, I know what majors these schools have and they're kind of interesting to me, but like I'm worried it rains all year long, which I always use in an example because when I was in college, there was a girl on my floor in the dorms who went to the college, discovered that it did rain for most of the year and the location that we were at. And then she transferred. She didn't make it a whole semester before she went to somewhere much sunnier. So it might not seem like a big deal, but if that's something that's on your mind, it's just one of those things that, kids don't think about, and sometimes you need to. But those are the kinds of things that you can ask a representative about, like those kinds of specific questions. So essentially, if you've done some research, but maybe need some more specific questions answered, that's a great reason to go to a college fair. Even if you think you know enough, you can always learn more. Clarity. College fairs often feature presentations or one-on-one discussions about admissions criteria, financial aid, and scholarships. This can help demystify the application process and ensure you're prepared with the right materials and deadlines. So again, this is kind of one of those things where questions that come up a lot from students are, oh, do you know if that college has scholarships? Or do you know what kind of financial aid they offer? And again, that's one of those things as we, as your counselors or you individually can look up on their website and kind of get a feel for. But the people who are really going to know are going to be those people who are working there every day and have a feel for it, or the people who are, working, helping to onboard incoming students. You can also show interest in a college. So let's say you are like the most expert college knowing person there is. Like you've done all your research, you have talked to schools, you've gone above and beyond. Maybe you've even selected a school already and you're just like already there. Something that you can do at a college fair is that you can show interest in that school. So attending a college fair and engaging with representatives can signal to colleges that you're genuinely interested in their institution. So this demonstrated interest can sometimes give you an edge in the admissions process. It can at least give you more information that can be helpful. It can potentially get you on like their email lists or whatever. I mean, it can get you in a little bit in some different ways. And then schools will often track which students take the time to engage with them, again, by collecting your email or other things so that they can reach out to you. So again, even if you're like, let's say you just know the most about every college ever and don't need any more information, you can still get something out of a college fair. And then answers. So college fairs offer a unique chance to ask specific, detailed questions that are relevant to your interests and needs. whether it's about housing, support services, or extracurricular activities. You can get your answers directly from the source. So things like maybe if you are on a like an academic plan here of some sort, or maybe you were at last school and you're wondering if colleges have those kinds of accommodations, it's going to be way easier to get an answer at a college fair, or at least get connected to someone who can give you an answer at a college fair, than it will be to try to like find that out on your own. Again, same thing about support services, extracurricular activities, all that. And then the sixth reason to go that I didn't put on here, but it's free. So it's a very, very easy way to get more information that's not going to cost you a lot of time. You're not going to have to sit down and like try to do a bunch of research, Googling on your own, and it doesn't cost you any money. So obviously there are services out there that will like gather information for you and cost money. However, you can also do a little bit more legwork, but attend a free college fair. So with that being said, I am going to pass it over to Mrs. Vogler to talk a little bit more about how you can prepare for a college fair.
Okay, thank you so much. I know this is a lot of information so far, and have gotten a few questions about, like what is a booth and things like that. And it's once you actually see the virtual fair, it's going to make a lot more sense. So a virtual booth is like she was saying, it's like you have the representative just kind of sitting there answering your questions, and usually through chat. And sometimes they may be live as well. So it's real important before you go to research the colleges that are attending. Now, this is something different that we're doing this year using this high school college fairs online. They are broken up by regions. And so for this first college fair, which runs the 23rd through the 28th, it's going to be like schools from the Western region of the United States. So when you log in and you create your profile, you should be able to see the list of schools that are going to be participating. So, it may not be, it's probably not going to be every single school you could think of, but at least it's going to give you an idea of some of the schools participating and maybe like some areas you might like to, go to school and so forth. Prepare questions. What is important to you in a college? Is it going to be financial aid, the majors, the culture, like Ms. Benedict was talking about, extracurricular things? So go ahead and make your list of questions or create a T-chart, with your questions listed so you can compare the different colleges. But if you're prepared, that is going to really help a lot more. And then test your technology. Make sure you do have a stable internet connection, microphone, all that. And then just kind of familiarize yourself with the platform, which you should be able to do once you get in and you get registered for the virtual fair and create your profile. So then during the fair, engage with the college representatives. Since the fair will be open 24 hours a day. So like for international students, that's going to be great because then you won't have to miss some of your sleeping time to go ahead and attend as well. Some of you night owls might, find it more helpful. So if for some reason the representative is not online at the time that you get on, it is not a problem at all. You just send them a chat and then they get back with you. So that's one thing that's really cool about this is like if you're on and you've got your questions, you just send them whatever you have and then they will definitely get back with you. They're really good about that. So make sure that, again, you've got your list of questions, you're chatting with their representatives to get everything answered. Take your notes. So when you're visiting the booths, make sure you take notes on what's important. So, of course, we need to watch admissions deadlines. Some colleges want you to have your applications turned in by December. Some colleges, it could be February. It could be, could go through the summer. It just depends. So make sure you find out what that deadline is. What scholarships do they offer? I know that in our senior newsletter, I'll be putting out some more links and things to scholarships. So these are going to be general, but when you're going to a specific college booth, you can ask, well, what does your school offer as far as scholarships go? Do you offer things for the major I'm interested in? Or, they can fill you in about that. and then attending webinars and information sessions. So they may have things that are pre-recorded already about their school. So make sure that you watch that. You can go ahead and get to know the campus better, because you have to remember, you know, not only are you worried about them accepting you to the school, but you need to be able to pick where you want to go. You are selecting the school that you want to go to. Next. And then after the fair, follow up. You may have visited like 10 or 15 different booths, and you're just like, okay, out of those, I have it narrowed down to 5 that I'm really interested in. These others didn't match what I'm interested in at all. Follow up with the ones you're interested in. If you're interested in all 15, follow up with all of them. But reach out to the representatives and ask any additional questions, because it does show your continued interest in the college, and building the relationship with the admissions office is very important. You want them to know who you are, not just another piece of paper coming through. Review your notes that you took during the fair. Make sure everything is organized and together, so that way you can always go ahead and look back at all of that as you're making your choices. And then once you have your information, then go ahead and start your application process, and really begin, again, what are the deadlines and what documents do I need? What specific criteria do I need to meet? Okay. There was the close with the next and the closing thoughts. Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay. Just a couple of closing thoughts. Make sure that you pre-register. Ms. Benedict did share the link again. And that just ensures that you'll be able to just log in quickly. You'll get a chance to see the schools that are going to be there, and help you in preparing. And then the other thing is, we really do want your feedback after you attend this college fair. We've seen virtual college fairs done different ways. And from what this looks like to me as I was researching, there should be a big variety of schools, some Christian-based schools, some non, just traditional schools. I mean, there should be a whole variety for you. So when you have finished with this virtual college fair, feel free to shoot me or Miss Benedict or your counselor a quick email and just, let us know, okay, was this helpful for you? What could have been better, and so forth. But that is pretty much what I have.
Excellent. All right. So I know we were getting some questions during this presentation, so I'm just going to start working my way down them. I'll probably also ask Mrs. Vogler and Mrs. Wilson if they got any questions, or if they had any different ones. The first question I got was, when should I start filling out college applications? So the Common App is open now. It opened up in August. So if your schools are Common App schools, go ahead and get started on that now, because it is very time consuming. I can let you know. So that is something you can get started on at any time. However, again, you want to take into account the amount of time it's going to take you. So think about the fact that you need to give a lot of general information about yourself. You also will probably have to write essays, and also probably some short answers, and get some information. I would say give yourself like at least a month, just because things are time consuming. You want to go over them. You want to have time to think. A month is probably enough time, but the more time you can give yourself, the better. And like I said, Common App's already open. So if your school is a Common App school, then, you're able to do that. So the first college fair is September 23rd, right, Mrs. Vogler, through the 28th? Right, okay. And as she was saying, that covers a certain region. So we will have other college fairs coming up that cover different regions. So if you're like, oh, I'm not interested in any schools in that region, I would say still go, just to get the experience of going. And because, like we talked about, maybe you will be interested in a school in that region you just never knew existed. But just also be aware that there will be other fairs that have different regions as well. The dates and times of all of the college fair webinars will be sent in the newsletters, right, Mrs. Vogler?
Yes. So it looks like there's going to be a college fair pretty much every month. And then it'll repeat again then in the spring, and there may be some other colleges in the regions that show up to that. So just keep your eye on the newsletter. And then, maybe Monday minutes, things that are, anything that you get sent out to you. But yeah, they're usually going to be or about a week long, 24 hours a day.
Right, awesome. So again, there will be lots of opportunities. So somebody asked about the profile for the virtual fairs, like what profile? I posted a link a couple of times now. So if you click that link, you can register for the fairs and make yourself a profile. And that's the profile that we're talking about. What kinds of schools are going to be at the fair? Mrs. Vogler covered this some already. It's going to be a pretty wide variety. Again, when she was researching, she tried to find school or college fairs that covered an assortment of Christian universities, because we know that that is of wide appeal to our students, but then other regional universities as well, a variety of major opportunities and programs. So again, the hope is that it's a big enough fair with enough variety that there might be something for everyone there, which is why we encourage you to go look. So college fairs sometimes will only have a few colleges. These ones are pretty big, so there should be a lot there, and there should be something for most people.
I went ahead and posted in the chat the some of the colleges that have participated in the past, so that you can at least kind of get an idea and maybe like where they're located.
Awesome, thank you. All right, what email do we use for registration for the college fair link? I mean, I would recommend using your school email, but you could probably also use your personal email. I don't know if they have a preference. So your school email is going to keep things nice and consolidated, but I don't think it matters either way. The link was chatted a couple of times. Should I register for the college fair now? Yes, pre-registering is it the only thing to do, or is it just preferred? Mrs. Vogler.
From what it looks like, because like this is new for all of us, it looks like you need to be registered for the fair, so then you can log into it when it comes on. So you should get a link sent to your email saying that the fair is live, and then you can just log into that. So make sure that you do get registered now if you can, so that that'll already be done, because next week will be here before we know it.
That is true. That is a very valid point. So definitely pre-register is what it sounds like, if just to make it easy on yourself. Do parents sign up for the college fair? Or is that for students to do? Students are going to need to sign up for the college fair. Now, I definitely encourage you to go to the college fair with your parent, at least for part of it, so y'all can discuss things like what's important to look for and things like that. But students are the primary audience for the college fair. The newsletters are ones that are going to be sent out to you either in the Monday minutes or in email. So just keep an eye out for the newsletters. They'll be coming your way. Probably some of them already have, but we did have some Zello issues that we've resolved since then. So it'll be a lot smoother moving forward. What is the Common App is the question I just got as well, since I know I mentioned that. The Common App is kind of exactly what it sounds like in a lot of ways. It's a common application for colleges. Back in the day, years and years ago, you used to have to fill out an application for every individual college you wanted to attend. And there's a lot of informational overlap. So it'd be a lot of like, what's your first and last name? What's your address? What are all your grades and transcripts and all that? And so in the past, you would have to type that in for every single college, kind of like if you're applying to jobs. If any of you have done that over the summer or anything, you had to put in your information for every single job, and it's the same thing over and over again. College apps used to be very similar to that. Now we have this thing called the Common App, Common Application, where students can go and put most of their basic information in. It'll all be saved there, and that gets sent out to all the colleges they're applying to, pretty much. Some colleges don't participate. Most colleges do participate in Common App now. But that saves you a lot of time in terms of having to redo the same info over and over again. And then there will be a section on the Common App that will ask for things that are specific to the college you're applying to. So it might be like, answer these 3 short answer questions, or give more leadership examples, or things like that. So there will be some specific questions, but like 70% of the information will already be done, so you don't have to redo it every time. If you search Common App, you'll find it. It's a pretty big thing. Or if you're at a college's website, it'll usually say apply using the Common App. So are the meetings with the representatives one-on-one or are they group meetings? They are, I believe, one-on-one. It sounds like they're one-on-one conversations with college reps. Is that right, Mrs. Vogler?
That's what it seems like. I was just kind of looking and it looks like, there may be some videos like when you log on, explaining about the campus, and then you can go ahead and send your questions in from there to the representatives. Some may be manned maybe manned personally. Yeah, so you're right. Like I said, this first one is kind of going to be a learning experience. One thing I'm noticing is like when you do log in and create your profile, you can go ahead and click on like what campus size are you interested in, the campus setting, the college type. You can kind of just narrow it down as well. So you make sure that you go in and do that.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thank you. Um, the newsletter will probably be sent to either your Ignitia account or your EA email, because if we send them through Zello, it's going to go to your EA email. So you should be checking your student email because that's where a lot of stuff is going to get sent. If you are not checking your student email or can't log in, then reach out to the IT department just to get that squared away. Also, remember, if you have any questions, just be sure to chat them to us. All right. When is the college fair? September 23rd through the 28th. So next week is when it is. And it's all day, every day. Because I did see some questions about like, what time is it? When should I be there? It is 24 hours a day. So again, like Mrs. Vogler said, you might chat sometimes and somebody might not answer you right away. If it's, if you're international and it's like 3 p.m. there, but it's like midnight here, there might not be anybody available, but they will get back to you. So you can go explore it at any time of the day during next week. For my Common App, should the school send my transcript or should I use a transcript I receive? So you can use the transcript that you have to enter grades and classes because it will ask you to do that as well. So it'll say put your classes and grades in here and you can use your transcript for that. They will also ask your school to send a transcript, an official transcript. So it's a little bit of both. So you can put down the information, but then they'll be like, okay, great, have your school send us a transcript. Here is how they can do it. Let's see. Will the Common App tailor scholarships and colleges to your major? No, the Common App is really just to apply to schools. So that's something that you do after you have selected schools that you're interested in applying to. All it does is help you with that application process.
And one thing, don't forget that if you register, you are entered into a drawing to win a $1,000 scholarship. So that is something that they are offering as well for anyone who registers.
Yeah. What about schoolwork for next week? You will still have schoolwork. So unfortunately, we can't pause school for the college fair. But I just recommend that, either go a couple of times. So you don't have to go one and done. You can go like for half an hour one day and then half an hour another day or something like that. Or, take a break from school to go do it. Maybe do it on Friday because Friday is a non-school day anyway. So you can just go and do that instead. Let's see. Where do I find my transcript or make one? If you need a student copy of your transcript, you can reach out to your counselor and we can get that sent to you. So that is probably the best way to get that. Again, if you need an official, we'll have to send it directly to the schools. So again, remember to chat your questions to us if you have any more. Mrs. Vogler, did you get any more questions that were not already answered?
Okay, so yes, I did get the question. It says, when I click the registration link, I see a registration, but it says that teachers and counselors should fill it out. Do I fill it out? So I was actually going in now trying to create a profile as a student. So when you need to click on the student/parents section, and then you click the register button below, and it will go ahead and take you to create your student profile. So if you have problems with that, just shoot an email to your counselor, to us or whatever, and we'll go ahead and see if we can troubleshoot it with you.
Perfect. Thank you. I saw a question about, does EA offer help to decide which career is best for each student? We do have some different ways of doing that. So first off is Zello, which y'all should have your Zello classes now, which should tell you how to log into Zello using your student email. So go check that out if you haven't. Zello has just a ton of information about careers, and it's in a really, I think anyway, really usable format. So for example, there's a lot of short videos about like, what is it like to be a florist for a day, or how did you get into this specific medical career? And they just talk with people in the profession. And there's a lot of videos like that, as well as just a lot of general occupation information. There's also quizzes you can take to kind of see what your strengths and weaknesses might be, just to help determine like, you might be really successful in this field just based on your interests and what your passions are. Or, you know, like maybe this field isn't for you because you don't want a job where you sit at a desk all day, or things like that. It'll help you narrow that down. So I would start there. And you can also ask your counselor if you need additional assistance, or if you're like stuck on things, feel free to reach out to them as well.
And I do want to just kind of chime in here. I have had, I think 3 or 4 students already complete most of their Zello lessons because once they got started, they couldn't stop. And the feedback that I've been getting is it is much more user-friendly than Naviance was, and they're getting a lot of information and learning a lot about themselves. So definitely, look into Zello.
Awesome. Thank you. If you don't know what major you're going to want to be in, how do you know what to ask? So you can ask a lot of questions at college fairs that are not related specifically to a major. Some of them might be, like what kind of programs do you have for freshmen? Again, do students live on campus or off campus? Are there things to do in the city? There's all kinds of things you can ask. If you're totally stumped on what to ask at a college fair, your first step is probably starting to think about like, what do you want from college? Like, what are you looking for? Do you want to go somewhere close to home? Do you want to go somewhere far away? Do you want to go to a place that's more rural, or maybe more in a city? Or what are the things that are important to you about your education? And then, you can also just start narrowing down majors and might not even be picking one. You don't have to like say, I'm for sure going to do this. But if you're like, well, I might kind of be interested in a couple of these different careers, then you can start looking for schools that have those majors too. Once you start narrowing down what you're looking for, you'll know better what to ask schools. So that's probably where I would start. And then, if you don't have any questions when you go to the college fair this time, that's totally fine too. You can go and just look around and get some info. It might be that once you're there, you start having questions like, oh, okay, I see, like now I need to ask about this, or something like that. Um, let's see. How is the college fair? It's not a webinar or a Zoom. It's just a website where you can browse booths. So you don't have to like sit in a webinar all day or sit in a Zoom all day. You'll just go on there. I think it should be fine even if you don't have a very good internet connection, because it's just so much like web browsing. On the registering for the college fair, it says apartment or suite. What do I put there? I think you can leave it blank if that doesn't apply. That seems to work out all right. Can you do Zello on your phone? I believe you can. You should be able to. I haven't tested that. I cannot say for sure. However, I think that it does work a little bit better on the phone than, well, for sure than for Naviance did, which didn't work at all on the phone. I would give it a try and see if that works. However, if your email is not working, like your student email isn't working, or you're having issues logging in other places, I would recommend emailing it@enlightiumacademy.com and getting that squared away, because you're going to want to be able to access that. I'm trying to type it right now, but trying to type while I'm talking is always a struggle. So you're going to want to be able to access your email. So if you're like, well, I don't want to do it now because it's working one place, but it doesn't work anywhere else, you probably should still go get that fixed. So let me chat the email for that. Oh, and that relates to the next question. Who can students reach out to with issues about student emails? IT. So that email I just chatted, that's who you're going to want to reach out to. We're not using Naviance anymore to answer the next question. We are using Zello instead of Naviance. It's just a lot more user-friendly. It's got a lot more information. It's a lot easier to navigate. And it's not available for bronze students. So it's only available for silver and up. How many backup colleges should you have? That really depends on who you are and what you're interested in doing. Um, I I generally, when I worked with students, and Mrs. Vogler can give her perspective as well, I have said just start picking colleges and kind of like put them in a three-tier system. So like top tier is like these are the ones that I absolutely want to go to. Like this would be my very first choice or my very like first and second choice maybe. So like just a couple colleges that you're like that's the one. Like that's where I really want to go. Then your middle tier is colleges that you're like I like these ones and I'm pretty sure I could get into them just based on what they're looking for. And then you probably have more colleges in that group because they might not be like the number one, like that's Harvard, I got to go there, whatever your Harvard is to you. But they're colleges that might be, more in your range for different reasons. And then below that tier is colleges you could for sure get into that you're maybe like not as excited about, but, in the worst case scenario, if you were like, you had to choose, that would be okay. That's how I have students that I work with kind of tier college lists because that kind of gives you a variety to choose from. But it's going to kind of be different for every student because if you're interested in going to a school and you're like, I have a very high chance of getting into this school and I'm not worried about it, I would say maybe still have a backup. But, sometimes the amount of backups just varies from kid to kid. What do you think about that, Mrs. Vogler?
Now, that sounds pretty good. The other thing to keep in mind is that you will be paying application fees when you turn your college applications in for most of them. So if you're applying to like 20 or 30 schools, that might get a little costly. So again, like she said, it just depends on what you're interested in. Making that list of this is my dream school, this is, I'd be happy at this school, this is where I know I can get into. And then, I usually say maybe 3 to 5 if you need a number, but again, that totally depends on what you're looking for.
Awesome. Thank you. And on the note of the college application fees, starting in October and then kind of just really varying as the months go on, but October is a big one. A lot of state schools will have free application months. So that is something to start looking into now. I believe there's a list online. I'd have to find it again. It kind of is difficult to find lists that are like fully updated with every state and when their free applications are. But the point is that schools, usually state schools, but sometimes just other schools will have like free application periods where you can do a college application with them for free. So start looking into that, start doing some research if you have selected schools, just because you can save kind of a fair amount of money. Like you would be surprised at college fees. Like Mrs. Vogler said, they do add up. I've seen anywhere from like 30 to 50 plus dollars for a college app. So if you're thinking like I'm doing 5 college applications and they're $50 each, that's like $250 that you could potentially save if your college does a free application period. So, oh, go ahead.
Pulling it up, it says they range $50 to $60, but sometimes as high as 90.
Here you go. I was pulling old numbers. I thought those were high too, and those weren't even as high as they go. October is a big month though. I do know that, and that's coming up. So just start doing some research if you're thinking about certain colleges, looking into that. If you're having trouble getting into Zello, feel free to reach out to your counselor. Also check your Zello class because it might just be that you're not trying to log in the right way. It's a little weird how you get into it the first time. And then once you do it, it's very easy and it makes sense. But the first time can be a little confusing. But there's a video in the Zello course in Ignitia that will walk you through how to do it. But also reach out to your counselor if you have any questions about that. Um, Mrs. Vogler, this might be a question for you, but the part where I have to put in my state on the registration, what do I put if I'm an international student?
Hmm. Is there a way just to put in, can you just put in INT, where it says state? If not, you can just put in, I would guess the Washington, since that's kind of where the school is. But I would think you should be able to put in an I or INT. So if it doesn't work, do Washington.
And it's really only going to be like initiating conversations with schools. So obviously, the more you talk to them, the more it'll be obvious that you're an international student. So it'll come up. A lot of these questions have already been answered. So this one is going to be a question I can tell you already that we won't have an answer to, but I'll ask the question anyway to let you know. In your opinion, are state schools better than private schools? That's really going to vary from student to student, and it's going to vary at which schools you're looking at and what you're looking for in those schools. All schools offer something different. Um, it it used to be that state schools had lower tuition than private schools, just kind of like in the past. However, a lot of private schools nowadays will offer some generous scholarships for students, which could potentially reduce your tuition down to what in-state tuition would be for a state school. So if you're thinking money, a lot of people will say like, oh, well, in-state schools are cheaper than private schools. That's not really true. And then if you're thinking like educationally, it just depends. It really just depends on what you're looking for. So really what's more important is to just look for colleges that align with what you're looking for out of a school, and then kind of, consider factors like in-state, out-of-state, all that afterwards or as part of the process. You should have the same student email every single year. So again, if you're having student email issues, reach out to IT, and they will help you out with that. How do you get your Zello login? So you are logging into Zello through your student email account. And what I mean by that is once you log into your student email inbox, there's a way to click a link that will take you to Zello. It's all in a video in the Ignitia class. So again, go look at that Ignitia class. It'll tell you exactly how to do it. And if you have questions after that, reach out to your counselor. Let's see. All right, so I'm seeing a couple more questions, but they're not at all related to this topic. So I'm going to say if you have questions that are just like very general, just go ahead and ask your counselor, send them an email. That seems to be about it, and we're running out of time. So yeah, try to attend this college fair if you can. Even again, if you're like, I don't really know if I want to go to college or if I want to go to college in that area, just try to go and, just see what's up and what the experience is like. And, thank you all so much for being here. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week.